Assalamu alaikum dear students, how are you? So today we are going to discuss chapter 2, that is exercise 2.1, which would be our last chapter for half yearly portion. So I hope other chapters are already done, because Rafiq sir will be taking information and data, so he will be discussing that chapter. So this is the only chapter remaining. Now let's talk about ratio. We already know what's ratio. Like in class 6 we already saw, like if we express a fraction 1 by 2, so if we express this in a ratio, we can write it as 1:2, right? So always remember that the fraction needs to be in its simplest form, that is means the reduced form. Okay, for example 5 by 10. So what will be the ratio? It will be also 1:2. Why? Because 5 on the 5, 5 2s are 10. So ratio needs to be written in the simplest form. Okay, so today we are going to, so this is just the basic of class 6, which we have learned already from class 6, that is how to express a ratio. Ratio is actually used for expressing different quantities, like what the relation between two different quantities. Okay, let's say today let's start with a new topic, that is ratio of multiple expressions. So what does multiple expression means? I'll just give you an example, you can easily understand. Okay, so ratio of multiple expression means, suppose let us consider a room. A room has length 20 centimeter, breadth 20 meter, let's say, breadth let's say 10 meter, then height you can say, let's say 5 meter. So ratio, when we are actually trying to express the ratio of these, what will be the ratio? 20 is to 10 is to 5. We can divide all this by 5, so we can write 4 is to 2 is to 1. Okay, so ratio of multiple expression means we have 3 units. I have compared this, the length, breadth and height. So the length, breadth and height are in the ratio of 4:2:1. That means if the height is 5 meter, the breadth will be 10 meter and the length will be 20 meter. And if the let's explain it a bit more. So 1:2:4, this is the ratio. So if the height is 2 meter, let's say if the height is 2 meter, what will be the breadth? The breadth will be 4 meter and the length will be 8 meter. So what I am trying to do is, whenever I multiply the ratio with any number, suppose I am multiplying the height by 2, I need to multiply the breadth by 2 as well, I need to multiply the length by 2 as well. Okay, so the ratio is the simplest form. Okay, by ratio we are expressing like the length, breadth and height. Means over here the breadth is 2 times of what? Height, and the length is 4 times of height. Okay, so by ratio, through ratio we can express the the relationship between 3 quantities or 3 expressions. Okay, now this is what we call ratio of multiple expression. Let's go to next topic, that is successive ratio. Let's say for example successive ratio. Okay, let's say for example the ratio of your age to your father age is 14 is to 40. Okay, this is your age, this is your father's age. So ratio of your age to your father's age is 40 is to, let's give an odd number, 41. Okay, so and let's say the ratio of your father to your grandfather is 41 is to 65. Okay, that is your father, this is grandfather. So this is you and your father, this is your father and grandfather. Okay, so what will be the successive ratio? The successive ratio will be 14 is to 41 is to 65. The successive ratio, when do we get successive ratio? We need to understand that we need to have a common phase. Like over here it's your age is to father's age, and over here it's father's age is to grandfather's age. So we need to have a common person, in this case a common person. If we are trying to find out successive ratio, we always need to understand that there should be a common thing. Okay, or if we have two different ratios, if we need to find out successive ratio, we need to convert them into such a way that two ratios are common. Okay, then only we can write a successive ratio. Over here 14 is to 41 is to 65. Why? Because in both cases father's age is there. Now another thing I want to discuss is, in a ratio we know, suppose in a ratio of two quantities, let's say 41 is to 65. Okay, the first ratio is usually called what? Antecedent. Antecedent. The first ratio is always called antecedent. Okay, and the second ratio, if a ratio has two expressions, you always need to remember that the first ratio is always called antecedent and the second one is subsequent. Antecedent, subsequent. Okay, now we have seen an example of successive ratio. Now if I have two different ratios, let's say 5 is to 7. Okay, this is one ratio, and another ratio, let's say 8 is to 14. This is another ratio. So my question is, I need to convert them or express this two ratios as successive ratio. What can we do? How can we express them? We need to first of all do one thing, that is the subsequent. This is the subsequent of the first ratio and this is the antecedent of the second ratio. This is the subsequent of the first ratio and this is the antecedent of the first ratio. Okay, so what we need to do is first multiply the antecedent of the subsequent of the second ratio with the antecedent of the first ratio. So let us multiply them. So what do we get? Seven into 8 is what? 56. Okay, so first what have we done? We have multiplied. Now this is the first ratio is what? 5 by 7, and the second ratio is what? 8 by 14. So what we need to do is, first of all, write the answer over here, the 56 which we got. and over here as well, because we have multiplied in for the first ratio. We need to put the 56 below, and for the second ratio we need to put the 56 above, same as this. Okay, now 8 into what is 56 into 7, so I will multiply this 14 also with 7. Again 7 into what is 56 into 8, again I will multiply this also with 8. So 5 8s is what, 40, 14 7s is what, 98. So you see, now we have got two common ratios, right? So my successive ratio will be 40 is to 56 is to 98. So this is the way you convert two different ratios to successive ratio. Okay, got it? It's very simple. Okay, so once you understood this, from page 21, complete activity 1, 2, 3 and 4. We'll discuss further problems in our next class. Okay, thank you very much.